us know at EAMA, and we can certainly forward this seminar over to other EAMA members. So we're really excited. So I could speak for myself in that Collins and Jewell, as a company, we've already started this process with IT Direct. It has been a learn as you go process. This has been something that's relatively new to the industry, but Sammy has got a really good grasp on the CMMC and cybersecurity and all of that. So we're definitely in good hands. And Sammy, I want to thank you for doing this and putting this together, and Dominique, your support as well. So with that, Dominique, I will let you introduce Sammy. And again, I thank everybody on the call that's here, and we will be in touch soon.
And thank you so much, Chris. All right, so we have had so much of the world go digital over the last year. And of course, it's been a challenge for individuals and businesses alike. IT Direct has been working hard for the last 20 years. It's wild to think that like IT 20 years ago in the 2000s, that's crazy. But IT has been working hard for the last 20 years to provide support to their customers. So even a global pandemic is no match for their expertise, right? So we're extremely pleased to have Sammy De La O from IT Direct join us to talk about how to keep your business safe and comply with the new CMMC regulations when more people than ever are metaphorically driving on the information superhighway. Sammy has been with IT Direct for over 4 years and is currently their Director of Quality and Compliance. Being in the field for over 9 years, he's well versed to help you navigate the new world of CMMC compliance. Welcome, Sammy. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much, Dominique. To get things started here, just want to make sure everyone can see the screen. Just a quick intro about myself. Like it was mentioned at the beginning, my name is Sammy De La O, Director of Cybersecurity and Compliance at IT Direct at Compass MSP company. And I've been, my entire adult life, I've been in IT, so over 20 years in IT. It's been an interesting ride to see how technology has grown and been utilized in different industries, different businesses. Last 9 years now, coming up to 9 years, I've been focusing on compliance and regulatory space. So whether it's pharmaceutical, life science, healthcare, finance, and now manufacturing, I've been really busy working with clients on understanding their industry cybersecurity needs and helping them establish a good program in their environments and their businesses that's not only meets the needs and requirements that they have, but also it's scalable and effective, and making sure that their workforce is also feeding into their cybersecurity safeguards. So I'm really, as is mentioned on the slide, passionate about this. I enjoy working and consulting with other partners and clients, and definitely a great conversation we're going to have this early afternoon. So just to give you a quick overview of what we're going to be talking about, just get a overview of what technology utilization looks like in our businesses today, especially in manufacturing. And knowing that technology is being used, what do we need to know about cybersecurity? What have we been seeing lately in the news that really can paint a good picture for us on understanding this a little bit better and the importance around strong cybersecurity? Then we're going to talk about how does a compliance framework help us? Many of you have heard of NIST and CMMC. How is that going to help us to establish that cybersecurity best practice? Understanding what are your business needs, how and what do I need to invest in, and how can I get started or continue on my journey? That has to do with implementing technology properly in our business. So jumping straight into the conversation here, technology and cybersecurity today. What are we seeing today? Well, the manufacturing space in particular has grown significantly over the last 10 years. We've seen the big boom in our state of Connecticut, and it's been great. Out of all the states in the United States, in this country, Connecticut's one of the leaders in manufacturing, and we're definitely benefiting from that. And it's all thanks to the advances of technology in our shops. Technology has helped us to work more efficiently, more effectively, help develop quality practices that help us to establish good product creation, consistent product creation, And, looking back, an industry that's been, motivated and moved on manufacturing is now being dominated by the use of technology, which has always been a benefit on the way that we produce. One example I use when I talk about technology in manufacturing today is my parents, growing up, they were in manufacturing here in Connecticut. They worked at multiple manufacturers locally. And about 15 years into their 30-year tenure at these companies, they had to go back to community college to get some computer classes because it was becoming a requirement that they need to learn how to use computers as part of their jobs in manufacturing. So that's the new way of manufacturing. We are using technology. So along with new technologies comes the necessity or the need to understand what are the threats that come along with these technologies and understanding the need for cybersecurity. Just because you buy a fancy new car doesn't necessarily mean that makes you a great driver. We need to learn how to properly utilize these new technologies and understand what type of safety and health requirements we need to maintain in order to use these technologies. And cybersecurity is an important part of any business in any industry, not just manufacturing. Technology is something that's not static. It's constantly changing day after day. And as technology improves, so do the cyber threats increase. So alongside with implementing new ways of doing our industry work, we need to make sure we understand how do we need to implement these new technologies and processes, and also making our workforce compatible to use this technology in a safe and secure way. And when we think about why cybersecurity is so important, the fact that an entire business can be brought down with a single click. So let's let that sink in our heads a little bit. Literally, all it takes is one mouse click to potentially bring down an entire business. And being in the IT industry, we've seen many of our clients and partners that have had different types of cyber threats. One of the more popular ones is ransomware. And literally all it takes is for you to click on one bogus link in an email. And what we've been seeing is these cyber threats are getting better and better with each day. They're getting really good at tricking people into clicking into these things. And if we've been keeping our ears on the news lately, most recently, we had the ransomware attack on the oil pipeline that literally happened last week. And we saw the effects that this had, right? The pipeline was only shut down for 3 to 4 days, but obviously the impact that it had both on the business and both on the consumers was significant. And we've seen that in other areas, other industries. For example, I don't know if any of you were planning on buying a car last month or 2 months ago, but if you were, you may have some sort of holdbacks because the Connecticut's DMV and emission systems were also down for a few weeks due to a ransomware attack. The beginning of the school year last year in 2020, in August, September, a lot of school openings were delayed because there were some town school systems that were also impacted by ransomware. On top of that, we know that ransomware is a type of cyber threat that can impact a business. It basically puts your data at risk and also prevents you from getting any work done. What we're seeing today is also an increase in focus hacking attacks. Case in point, at the beginning of the year, we heard of the SolarWinds vulnerability hack. SolarWinds is an enterprise level project that's used across multiple industries. One of those industries being our government. So we found out that our multiple government agencies, including one responsible for cybersecurity, which is our Homeland Security Agency, were all exposed to this hack, and sensitive information was potentially obtained by foreign entities. So we also are seeing focus hacking attacks based on the industry that we're in, and manufacturing is definitely area or an industry that's at risk for attacks by foreign entities. We have one of the biggest and strongest supply chain in the world today here in the United States. The supply chain that feeds our Department of Defense and other agencies is strong. And obviously Connecticut is definitely one of those spaces or areas where we're really feeding into that supply chain. On top of that, last year, during the start of the pandemic, we realized that government contracts are great work to have during a pandemic. It's pandemic proof. We found out that many businesses were able to continue to stay operational in manufacturing because they took on more government contract work. So with all of that, that is exposing this industry and our businesses to these cyber threats. So there is a great need for implementing systems properly, but also training our employees, because at the end of the day, the biggest factor on cybersecurity is protecting the people factor, you know, the potential risk factors coming from the end users, our employees. So the next question is, how does compliance frameworks help us? So obviously for many of us in the industry, in manufacturing in particular, a lot of businesses, business owners have been spending 10, 20, 30, 40 years, their whole adult lives working in this space. So they're experts when it comes to manufacturing. They're not experts in IT. So obviously we don't expect everyone to overnight become IT experts. But at the same time, we need to know the importance of how to establish good cybersecurity practice. So how does compliance frameworks help us? So in the manufacturing space in particular, many of us have already heard the requirements for NIST 800-171, and more recently being CMMC, or Cybersecurity Maturity Model Certificate compliant. Why are these frameworks useful for our industry today? Well, how do we know if we're implementing the right policies? How do we know we're configuring the tools properly? How do we know we're investing effectively and efficiently into cybersecurity? How do we know that when we do have a breach or a potential attack, that we can act properly and recover properly and promptly? Well, a compliance framework gives us the roadmap of how we should be implementing cybersecurity best practices. A good analogy that we've been mentioning recently is understanding the must-haves versus the nice-to-haves. And that's the challenge we have in IT. There's so many options. Depending on how much you want to spend, you know, there's so many different ways that we can implement cybersecurity. But the analogy we've been using recently is understanding the difference between going out and buying a brand new sports car, maybe that Lambo, or going out to get an Audi R8 or something really nice like that, or understanding that I need a good, safe car, not necessarily breaking the bank in order to get a car. So it's a difference between needing a car and spending it on something that you probably is too much for you, right? So our cybersecurity compliance frameworks like NIST and CMMC is going to help us determine what do we actually need, as opposed to what would be nice to have but is not necessary at the moment. That's really going to help us to know where to invest and how to invest our money wisely for these types of compliance requirements. And this is going to be important over the next few months and years because of all the cybersecurity threats we have been seeing. More and more industries and state and federal agencies are going to start requiring and implementing more clear guidance on cybersecurity requirements. Case in point, the state of Connecticut currently has a bill in their legislation where they're currently determining a requirement for all businesses that have personable identifiable information, or PII data. So this would be not industry specific. Any business that keeps any information that can be used to identify particular users, other businesses, entities will be required to follow a certain cybersecurity framework. For example, if you read through the current bill that they have now, which they're currently updating, it references a lot of different other frameworks such as NIST 853, ISO 27001, CIS controls. There's also the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, or HIPAA. So we have a lot of good guidelines out there for frameworks, and potentially in the near future, this is going to be a requirement not just for one industry like healthcare or manufacturing, but it's going to be a requirement just to be able to do any business in any state. Massachusetts, New York already have similar laws in place already, requiring people to have the appropriate cybersecurity safeguards as well as policies and procedures. And we're expecting Connecticut will have the same thing, potentially requiring it starting this fall. So again, having a good understanding of these compliance frameworks is actually a positive thing, because it's a roadmap to understand what do we need to do now in order to establish these safeguards. So now you understand that cybersecurity is important. What do I do next? Well, we need to understand what is our business needs, and every business is going to be different. You can have two separate shops that are producing the exact same parts, but the needs of every business is going to be a little bit different. So here are some questions that we normally ask when we're working with our clients and partners to kind of get a good understanding of what are the business requirements or business needs. Do we understand how technology is being used today? You know, we understand we're using computers, but how are we using computers? Do we understand where data is being stored and how it's being protected? Right now, data is king. The whole reason why a dark web or the dark internet, where a lot of shady things are being conducted, is because there's a big market for selling data. So data is important. We need to protect data. And do we know where do we keep our business related information, or where do we keep client information so that it's safe and secure? Do we understand who is at risk in our organizations? You know, it's not just the computers or servers that we're using. Do we understand what are the risk factors within our organization? A lot of times, you know, we know that we got people on the shop floor working, but the people that are more at risk tend to be the people up at the top of the business, since they're the most high exposure out there for the business. Obviously, they have a lot more to lose. So we want to make sure that we identify those different areas in our organization, different personnel that could be potential risk factors, so we can address those as well. What are our gaps in our technology? You know, like we mentioned at the beginning, technology is constantly changing every single day. So if we're still using technology from 5, 7, 10 years ago, there potentially could be some gaps in there. So do we understand which areas within our technology implementation needs a little TLC and a little bit more help? And do you have the proper training in place? Again, we're not here to make everyone an IT person, but does everyone understand how their job relates to the company's security posture and compliance posture? Everyone can feed into the company's initiatives on quality service, cybersecurity best practice, and meeting industry regulation and compliance needs. So that training, having it in place when we onboard a new user, regular monthly cybersecurity awareness training, yearly refresher trainings, all that would contribute to a much stronger, safer workforce. So we need to understand where are we in that area of implementing the needs for our business. Once we have a good idea of what the needs are in our business, we need to understand now that we need to invest into making our environment safer and secure. Obviously, it requires a lot of planning to invest into a proper cybersecurity program in our businesses. So having the right knowledgeable partner can help you be successful in implementing these things. The investment, a lot of people up front when we're doing consulting with different businesses, first question they have is, how much am I going to spend? And I wish I had the answer for everyone right from the beginning, because it would make things a whole lot easier, right? But the investment into these improvements depends on the business needs and where are you in your cybersecurity journey. Just to give you an example, since 2017, if you're in manufacturing working on government contracts, it's been a requirement for you to be NIST 800-171 compliant. So the first question we always ask is, if you have that need, how are you doing on your NIST 800-171 compliance? Are you at 100%? Are you updating it? Do you have a plan? Have you not started yet? Depending on the answer, it's going to lead into the conversation. Okay, based on that, we have a pretty good idea where you need to invest into it. Another question, have you started your CMMC compliance journey? We know that pretty soon there's going to be requirements in contracts with the government that are going to require you to have your CMMC certificate. Have you started your CMMC journey? Are you in process? Do you have a plan of action on when will you have that completed and ready? Again, depending on where you are, it's going to lead into a better idea of how much you're going to have to invest into this. The DFARS clause from the DoD that talks about the requirements for CMMC has some high level math on how much they expect people to invest into their cybersecurity compliance practice in their environment. So that could provide you a little bit of guidelines of how much you should be investing into this. Once you understand where you are in your cybersecurity journey, a knowledgeable partner will help you identify what's going to be a one-off cost or what's going to be a reoccurring cost. Obviously, there's going to be gaps and changes needed in your environment. They're going to equate to projects. They're going to be a one-off cost, but at the same time, we're going to have to start investing on reoccurring services in your environment to keep the cybersecurity practice in place. There's a lot of services now that are required today that has a reoccurring cost. Obviously, you have your IT services, you have antivirus, your patching. Now you have new technologies like multi-factor authentication and strong firewall and strong logging capabilities, making sure you have an active and resilient backup system in place. All those things are going to incur a reoccurring cost. But again, it's a cost that's going to maintain your cybersecurity practice in your environment. That's why it's very important that alongside your knowledgeable IT partner, you're working on your yearly budget that includes line items for technology and cybersecurity. So now a question that a lot of people like to bring up is who can help us on our cybersecurity journey? This has been an interesting thing. We've seen a lot of different ways it's been handled in different businesses. A lot of people actually hire someone internally or engage in an external partner. I've seen it done both ways, and at the end of the day, you could be successful both ways. Bullet number 2 on this slide is really the key here. Whoever you're going to utilize to help you on your cybersecurity and compliance journey should be versed in technology. So obviously have the experience in the technology you need to use in your environment, whether it's your servers, your network, your connectivity, remote access, your workstations, is able to work with software vendors that you're utilizing. That technology is going to be an important component, but also someone who's strong in cybersecurity, someone that understands how to properly configure your firewall and your network, how to secure remote access, how to maintain your systems so they're safe and secure from vulnerabilities. And finally, someone that has the compliance know-how. And I can tell you right now, I work in a company with a lot of strong IT people, but also having that compliance know-how and experience is also going to be key. Every business is going to be a little bit different. So understanding, going through the process of understanding the business needs and coming up with the right solutions that meet the compliance requirements is going to be key to investing properly and making sure you're meeting the requirements and being able to get your CMMC certification. So obviously, the advice we always give our clients and partners is take into consideration the time, the effort, and the investment needed to properly plan for this work. We've seen many clients find someone that they already have hired full-time internally to take this on. Well, I'm almost certain that person wasn't sitting around waiting for work. So if they already have a full-time job, they may not be the right person, because this right here, what we're looking at right now, is a full-time job. Being someone that's going to be able to help you on your technology planning, implementing, configuring, and maintaining your cybersecurity configurations, and someone who can stay on top of your compliance requirements. All of that takes time, a regular cadence to monitor and discuss, which is a lot of effort and that investment on top of it. So we want to make sure that we give this the right importance, because the impact that this could potentially have for us is significant. We know that getting hit by ransomware or by a hack could potentially bring our business down for a while. It will cost us a lot of money. The United States being one of the countries with the highest cost of ransomware attacks per incident. So we know that these ransomware attacks are not cheap. But also, having someone that can help you stay on top of your compliance requirements, so that you're making sure that you're meeting the requirements in your industry, so the work keeps coming in. We've already heard from multiple people that the fact that they haven't even started their NIST 800-171 assessment and scoring, they've had a halt on POs until they met that requirement. So obviously we want someone to help us that's going to stay on top of that, understand the need and the necessity, so that we can keep our business flowing and working properly. Maintaining an effective cybersecurity posture. So we need a solid structure to stay on top of the changing cyber threats and technology. Like I mentioned before, it's a full-time job. Every week, hearing the new attempts, hacks, new ransomware attacks, staying on top of that and being able to promptly act to maintain your system safe and secure is going to be important. Also, understanding the changes in industry requirements. Like we mentioned before, NIST 800-171 and CMMC is something that we need to stay on top of. As of November of 2020, everyone's required to submit a NIST score if you're working on government contracts or subcontracted to work at government contracts. So right away, we know that that should be the first thing you should be working on. From there, do we understand what's coming up in CMMC? And what's our game plan in case we get that requirement sooner rather than later? So obviously we need a plan of action, a solid structure to stay on top of these things. Performing a regular risk assessment will help you identify changes in both your business and in cybersecurity. And just for everyone should be aware of, performing a regular risk assessment is a requirement in NIST, CMMC, as well as other industry frameworks like HIPAA and PCI. So there's a reason why this is required and important. At least on an annual basis, you should be working with your IT partner to review your environment, what has changed, and what do we need to do to keep and maintain our cybersecurity posture. And also maintaining compliance requirements, because that is going to be our roadmap for continuous improvement. We know that manufacturing is its own industry, and we're not changing over to a technology industry, but we need to be able to maintain the technology that we're utilizing in our manufacturing industry. So staying on top of our compliance and cybersecurity requirements is going to be the way for you to stay ahead of the curve and maintain your cybersecurity best practice. So a lot of times, clients understand that they have to grow and improve their environments. In manufacturing in particular, over the last 15 years, we've seen them adopt a quality practice. So ISO 9000, adopting quality practices that helps to make sure the products that are being produced are consistent to spec, that are maintaining everything safe and secure. But at the same time now, we're seeing that in manufacturing, we're now going to be adopting NIST and CMMC as a new requirement for our cybersecurity best practice, but also for good business practices in manufacturing. So it's very important to make sure that we're investing now into a continuous improvement program when it comes to technology. So what are some of these takeaways? What is our next steps? Well, we need to make sure that we understand how important cybersecurity and compliance is for our businesses. There's a lot of changes happening even within this year alone. So we need to make sure that we stay on top of it. So ask yourself, do I know how compliance is going to affect our business? If you have government contracts in manufacturing, you're subcontracted, it's going to be a requirement for you to be NIST and CMMC compliant. So as you could see the little clip art here, this is sort of the high level plan that we should be seeing. So by the end of summer to the beginning of September, we should start hearing of manufacturing businesses starting to get their CMMC audits for certification. So it's very important that we know that this is coming up soon. We shouldn't wait to the last minute to start this, because it requires time and effort in order to get our businesses up to par with the requirements. Do you know how this is going to apply to your customers or clients? There is a downflow when it comes to the requirements. You may not be a prime contractor with the government, but if you're potentially getting contracts that are as a subcontractor, these requirements are going to be downflowing. And what we've been seeing with a lot of our partners and clients is they've been getting notices asking them to start on their NIST and CMMC compliance work. So you should really be sitting down and finding out what are the compliance requirements that are coming our way this year alone, and what do I need to do in order to start on my own journey if I haven't done so already. And just again, a word of advice: if you work on government work, government contracts for the DoD, you should definitely have done your NIST assessment, NIST 100-171 assessment, and submitted a score in. If you haven't done so, I highly recommend reaching out to a partner that can help you out, such as IT Direct. We're helping out many of our clients get their initial NIST assessment and NIST score. This is a requirement that was due back in November. So the sooner you get it in the system, the better. And this will be your first step going towards CMMC compliance. But we need to take advantage of the time now. As more and more cyber threats come to light, we need to make sure that we have a practice in place so that we could keep up with the changes that are going to come up in the next months and years in our industry. So just to summarize what we've gone over, technology and cybersecurity is evolving. As long as we're using technology, computers, servers, networks, we need to stay on top of all the threats that come along with these technologies that help our businesses be efficient. And remember, one of the biggest risk factors today is the people factor. All cyber threats, all potential hacks, they're trying to exploit the people factor. So the better we train and implement processes to help our employees, the better defense we're building up for our team. It's very important that we understand our business needs and understand what are our compliance requirements, and then find the right partner to help develop a solid cybersecurity practice. And just keep this in mind. We use this phrase a lot in our business with our customers and our partners. Good compliance is good business. It's just smart to do this the right way. It'll make your business thrive and be successful because you're avoiding a lot of those cyber threats out there, and you're putting yourself in a good position to continue working on these government contracts. So the more that we plan and invest wisely into our technology and cybersecurity, the more safe and successful we're going to be as a business. Very good. So just to kind of wrap things up here, I have my contact information up on the screen. My email is there, as well as my office number. Also look me up on LinkedIn. We're always posting up information related to news on cybersecurity, Connecticut, manufacturing, whatever's happening. We like to put things up there, and I'm always free and available to call, email, leave me a message, and I'm always happy to reach out. If you have any questions, I'm more than happy to talk shop and help you guys out, especially if you're looking for someone to give you good consulting or advice on how to handle certain things. So I'll turn things over back to Dominique, but thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you so much, Sammy. That was a lot of really good information. And I loved that you kind of tailored it to our audience, saying like small businesses need to be concerned about this too. So two things that I absolutely loved that I think that I mean, of course, the entire presentation is incredible. But two things that I really want to highlight that you said in the presentation was that this is already a full-time, like this IT management is already a full-time job. I know that there are so many manufacturers in Connecticut that are small, you know, maybe 1 or 2 person businesses. And they think that they can kind of do it on their own, or say, oh, I'll just delegate it to my, you know, family member that says they need something, you know. But that's not really possible at this day and age. Thank you for highlighting that, because what you have to lose if you don't take IT issues seriously is so much more than you gain from saving a couple $100, you know. And also the other thing that I really loved that you said was technology environment. Now it's not just a computer anymore. Everything. I mean, I have a lamp in the other room that works on Wi-Fi. Now, while I don't think anybody is gonna hack into my lamp, it is a good way to show that Wi-Fi is all around us. Your phones, your iPads, your Alexa, if she hears me from the other room, they're all connected. And there are so many ways that, you know, people with bad intentions could overtake your business, things that are connected to your business, like your personal data and everything. So I really appreciate you using that term technology environment, because that's really accurate for today's age. Absolutely. Yeah, I know there are so many things that technology encompasses, and me even being a millennial, like it's still wild to me to think of all the different ways that you can use technology. Even going into a restaurant and you scan the QR code with your phone now, you know? But thank you so much for taking the time to talk to our audience about the different CMMC compliances and general IT services that IT Direct gives. Again, all of CME's contact information is on the screen. This has been recorded, as I said before I started recording. So we are going to blast this out to our audience so that the people who maybe had a different lunch meeting today are able to watch it. And thank you, Sarah, for your help, and Marnie. This has been a great event. Thank you.